Hello everyone and welcome to this month's Qubit Tech Talk. I'm joined today with the infamous Tim Clifton, our Director of Operations at Qubit Networks, and we are here in our worldwide headquarters in lovely LaPorte, Indiana. Today we're going to talk about the Colonial Pipeline Ransomware attack. So this was all over the news, right?
Oh, yeah.
So not only like tech news, because sometimes I know like when ransomware happens, like it's in the tech news, but not on like the evening news or the Wall Street Journal. This one was on all of them, right? It was a big deal. And so I want to preface this with all of the information that we gleaned was found on Google or newspaper articles, etc. So we don't have any inside track here. Colonial's not a customer of ours. Like, you know, we don't have any insider information. But I think it's very relevant to explain, you know, what was found and what, as customers, we can do to try to, you know, prevent this from happening, you know, to customers, and, you know, for us as you know, providers, like what we can encourage our customers to do to help prevent this thing from happening. So Tim, what did you find?
So basically, the Colonial Pipeline Ransomware attack was something that would make any IT security or any IT professional, for that matter, stand on guard, because it was just widely publicized. It basically crippled the southeastern petrol infrastructure and brought like a lot of gas stations down there to a halt because this happened. So from what they have released so far, which isn't really much, they basically have said that the ransomware attack occurred because there was a remote access VPN account, likely from a vendor, and who was not properly offboarded, wasn't offboarded properly. So essentially, the threat actor, which was DarkSide, which is traced back to Eastern Europe and possibly Russia. They've hit other organizations in the past, and they were able to log into Colonial Pipeline's infrastructure, IT infrastructure, and were able to put ransomware on to a few of their IT assets. And this happened on or about April 29th. About a week later, a user noted that they had a ransomware message calling out for, I believe it was a total of $4.4 million in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And otherwise their vital assets would not be unlocked.
So there's a firewall on the network, we presume, right?
Correct.
That had a VPN account,
Yes.
right? So this is pretty typical stuff, right? So
Right.
people access, you know, networks through VPNs all the time, right? So the bad guys got in through this account and loaded some ransomware, and they came in one morning and saw that, hey, like, we're on your network. You got a limited time to send us money, right? And we'll uncrypt your stuff. And so let's kind of unravel that just a little bit, right? So what are the things that customers can do, right, to, you know, kind of prevent that level of access, right, into the VPN?
Well, so three critical things happened here, and it all revolves around identity and access management. Number one, the vendor or whatever account was used was not properly offboarded and was not removed from whatever they use for their access control. Number two, they aren't using multi-factor authentication. By having multi-factor authentication, that's another layer of security that would have prevented the breach to begin with. And then also password complexity. We don't know what their password requirements are as far as how complex it needs to be, but obviously it wasn't enough in this case. And so what they're speculating is that this password that was leaked was likely listed for sale on the dark web.
Gotcha. So three things there that, like, pretty much every user can do, right, or every company can do to try to prevent this from happening to them. So, you know, doing an audit of your VPN users, right? So, you know, if a user is no longer with the organization or not no longer a vendor, get rid of it.
Absolutely.
Right? If they are legit, enact two-factor authentication. It's funny because I tell my family this, like, always use two-factor whenever you can, right? 'Cause
Absolutely.
it just really, really, really hedges your bets against something like this happening. And then using long, hard-to-crack passwords, right? So if those three things happen, and that's pretty much something that every organization can do, right, are these three things, that would have really, 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 really prevented the ease of the access. Now, the other thing I found interesting in talking to you leading up to this is that the group from Eastern Europe / Russia called, what was it called again?
DarkSide
is almost like a ransomware as a service organization. So explain that a little bit, what you found there.
They are, and you find it funny, ransomware as a service. It's a thing. So what DarkSide does is it has programmers behind the scenes that are developing this ransomware software. And what they do is not only do they collect ransoms from people that they are acting on, but they also sell it to other cyber terrorist organizations, and they take a cut of whatever ransoms they collect.
Yeah.
So the CEO of the Colonial Pipeline was unsure to begin with whether or not he was going to pay. But then in talking with other organizations that DarkSide has hit, he got, he was pretty positive that if he were to pay the ransom that they would give the encryption keys, because they would put it on the screen that they're just in the business to make money. They're not there to necessarily cripple infrastructure and whatnot, which they did. But the CEO ended up paying him approximately $4.4 million in Bitcoin. And just recently, the Department of Justice was able to use their private key to decrypt the crypto wallets of whoever the actor was, and was able to get $2.3 million of that back. Yeah. So still a big chunk of change out there, but at least they were able to recoup some of that money. And so what really happened here that kind of slowed down the supply chain as far as petrol goes is there's no evidence so far that anything on the process controls network was affected. So they just kind of shut that down proactively because they probably knew, and I'm just speculating here, that the IT infrastructure probably also touched the process controls network, right, and they wanted there to be that air gaps, that way nothing on that side of the critical infrastructure gets affected.
So a lot of it was proactive on Colonial's part.
Yes.
There wasn't necessarily a problem. They thought there could be a problem, so proactively shut things down so if there really was a problem, it wouldn't be worse. They could really mitigate what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this is a kind of a terrifying proposition for any CEO or IT manager, right? So the other thing I found interesting though was on the crypto side, right? And I read about this a little bit, and so because it's through the blockchain, which is the open ledger, right, for Bitcoin. So they were able to follow that transaction through, and it changed hands many times, and it finally landed into a wallet that they had some influence over. So maybe something like Coinbase or something like that they had some influence over. So
yes,
that was, from a tech perspective, kind of interesting as well, on a separate note. So, okay, well, I appreciate you digging into this a little bit.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot worse. And this
Absolutely.
is something that obviously every organization is up against now. And I think, I think the answers are just right in front of us. I mean, they're relatively straightforward, right? But I find that in tech sometimes these things are a real pain in the butt to implement. And sometimes organizations are like, we don't have time, or it's going to be too disruptive for us to do those things. And I think things like this are just like, well, you have to do these things, right? So again, two-factor authentication, complicated passwords, flushing your VPN access list to make sure that those are all legit, are just some relatively simple things, right, that can be done to really work to prevent all this.
Yeah, a lot of it just revolves around policy and how well you enforce it for your users.
Right.
So
thanks everybody for joining. If we sound a little bit different, we got our new mics on today, right? So we're trying to increase the video content, make it a little bit nicer. But until next month, thank you.